Hello, hello, everyone. Hello. Oop. How is everybody today? I don't really have an agenda for this live, to be honest. So I thought we would just do like open chat, open Q&A today. Sorry, I'm getting everything set up. So I look awkward because I'm just sitting here right now. Hi from Pennsylvania. Hello. Hello, hello. So I normally have a poll that I do to like see what people want to talk about. I was gonna not do that today, but if I need to, I will. As of right now, I'm just thinking we can just kind of do like an open chat, an open Q&A. I like doing the poll because it gives me a little bit of structure, because sometimes I feel awkward on lives because I don't necessarily know what to talk about. So I just kind of sit here awkwardly until people ask me questions. Okay, so I know I have someone from Pennsylvania. Where's everybody else from? Hello. How are you, my friend? Michigan, Wisconsin. Oh, cool. I have not been to either one of those states, actually. One of my random bucket list items is to visit every state at least once. I think that'd be really cool. I feel like there's so much to explore here. You know, New Mexico. New Mexico, and your course is awesome, by the way. Oh, thank you. I'm glad it's helpful. I'm actually in Texas. I am in Texas, yep. So just since it was brought up, in case you guys don't know, if y'all struggle at all with like ruminating thoughts or the obsessive thinking patterns, I do have a course on that. It's called Breaking Free from Rumination. You can find it in the link in my bio on all my platforms. And it really just helps give you like specific strategies to get past this obsessive thinking cycle, because it was the hardest part for me to get over. I was just constantly replaying everything in my brain. I was trying to figure it out. And so, and the frustrating part was nobody could really tell me what to do. Nobody gave me any kind of strategies. So I just started to figure things out on my own and try things on my own. So the whole reason I wrote the course was to give people the resource that I wish that I had had. But I'm glad it's working for you. From West Virginia. Kind of all over the map today. I love it. Okay, so I think I changed my mind. I think I am going to do the poll. I think it just helps give us all a little bit of direction. Oh, no. What? Hang on one second, y'all. Bear with me. There it is. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do this on here as well. Sorry if y'all can hear the typing. I have my computer on one thing and my phone on another. So I'm going to put some options on here for us to talk about. And then I'll answer that question about rumination really quick too, because that's a really good one. Mm. Okay, I put the options in the comments if you're on Facebook and YouTube. But first, let me answer this question. So the question was, does the rumination ever go away? And to be honest, that is a great question. And I asked that question myself, like to my therapist, whenever I was going through all of this, because I was just like, when does this stop? Like, and it does go away. But here's the thing about rumination is that it's essentially a bad habit that was formed while you were in the relationship. So what we don't realize is that we were constant. So like the clinical definition of rumination is a negative thinking pattern that's on repeat, like it's just played on a loop. That's a summarized version of the clinical definition. Well, if you think about it, that's what was happening in the relationship. Like we were constantly on this thinking cycle over and over again. It just looked different. So it was like, well, what version of them is coming home today? It's walking on eggshells. It's like deciphering if there's what they're saying is true or is it a lie. It's trying not to set them off. Like we're constantly in the state of thinking, and so it's just a habit that was formed, and it transfers over after the relationship is done. And when that happens, it just looks a little different. So now you might be replaying certain aspects of the relationship over and over again, or you might be um, dealing with like self blame and you still replay certain aspects of it. You might be wondering what they're doing now. You might be cyber stalking either them or the new supply. It just looks a little different. And the thing about bad habits is that bad habits don't just go away, they have to be replaced with new habits. So, does rumination ever go away? Yes, it does, but it goes away when you are actively working on it and having those strategies. So that's why I wrote the course that I did, was because nobody really talks about the strategies, and it's simple things like incorporating new habits and routines. It's about spending, going out and making new memories. It's about learning how to redirect your thinking. So that's why I wrote the course. It's because it's 6 weeks. It's self-paced. It gives you strategies to implement for the week. You can't speed the course up, but you can slow it down. Um, so that's the best way for you to get through it, is to have these strategies to help redirect you. Um, so yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm also gonna put um, these options up here too. So y'all can feel free to like put in the comments what you want to talk about if you're on Facebook or YouTube. Um, and we'll just see what comes up. So what I mean by emotional management is like if you're having difficulty like regulating or managing your emotions, if that makes sense. Like just strategies with that. So right now obsessive thinking is winning. Which I know it sounds weird, but that's one of my favorite things to talk about because I think it needs to be talked about more, especially how to deal with it. While we're waiting on votes too, I am just trying to remind everybody, because this is only valid until the 31st of this month. I have launched something called the coaching community. It's called Trey's Tribe, and I'm really excited about it. So I've just been thinking a lot about the direction that I wanted my platforms to go. And my heart is really on the implementation side of things. So what I mean by this is most of the questions that I get from everyone across all platforms are like how to's. So like, Trey, how do we do this? How do we get over this? How do we deal with the obsessive thinking? It's a lot of how to questions. It's not a lot of what questions. Like, what is love bombing? I don't get those a lot. So I've decided that I just want, and and honestly, one of the other things that sparked this idea was just this whole like TikTok ban, because really just kind of showed how out of control we are of everything. Which I mean, we already knew that, but I wanted to create something that was off of social media, that people can get the content that they need, and they don't have to search for it. They don't have to wait for an algorithm to show it to them or whatever. It's just there. And so the coaching community is strictly focused on implementation and strategies, and it's not also just about getting over the narcissistic person. It's about um, It's really about building the self-confidence and about rebuilding self-value or building it for the first time. It's about learning how to set healthy boundaries and honoring yourself enough to keep those boundaries. So it's about so much more than just getting over a narcissistic person. So right now, what I'm doing is what's called a founding members rate. It's only 25 bucks a month to be part of the community right now. That offer ends on the 31st of this month, so at the end of March. It's only going to ever be this cheap right now because it's just launching. And then all the founding members and myself are going to work together for like a month or two and kind of build the structure of it and decide what's beneficial, what's not, like give me direct feedback essentially about what they like that I'm doing and what they would like to see, et cetera, et cetera. So you can actually really help me build this community. So if you are interested in that, please send me a direct message. If you're on YouTube, I'm actually going to put my email on here. If you're on YouTube, I don't think, well, I know I don't get DMs on YouTube. So feel free to send me an email. Everybody else, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, just send me a DM if you're interested and I can answer any questions that you might have. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited about it. We're just doing this until the 31st at this rate. If you join as a founding member, you're locked in at that rate as long as you're in the community. And then when I relaunch it in June is my goal, it'll be higher because at that point it's already built and structured and all of that. So I do have that going on too. Right now, what we're doing is we're actually doing daily challenges. So I text out like, hey, focus on this today. And then we're definitely going to continue to do at least weekly challenges. Um, we'll maybe keep the daily ones. We'll see. Okay, so I have, while we're waiting on, I still have the polls going. But while we're waiting for that, there's a good question that came in here over on TikTok, which is how do you overcome thinking that the next one was just like your narcissist? If you're talking about like the next person I started to date, which I think if can you clarify and make sure that that's what you're talking about because I want to answer it correctly. I think that's what you mean. Um, before I answered it, that'd be awkward if I answered the wrong question. Yes. Okay. So as far as not like when you start getting ready to date again, and by the way, don't rush that. Like, don't let people convince you that it's time to start dating again. If you don't feel ready, then you're not ready, and that's okay. There's no timeline to when you should start dating again. Um, and there might be a situation where you think that you are ready, and you go out and you try, and you're like, nope, not ready for this. That's fine. You don't rush it because that's just going to set you up to either hurt yourself or hurt other people because you're just not ready. Um, but the way that I had to deal with it was I really I struggled a lot trying to figure out if something was a red flag or if it was just my own head, if that makes sense. Like if I was reading into things too much. I really struggled with that at the beginning. um, and when I say beginning, I mean like the first 3 months or so, because unfortunately, I think there's just certain aspects of getting over a narcissistic relationship that you can't cross until you just get out there again. Because there's just certain aspects that you can't deal with until you try again. Um, and really, what I had to ask there was two things that I did. I had to ask myself, like, where is this based from? Is it based on fear and insecurity, or is it based on a lived experience? So, did I see something that I truly didn't like and have evidence to prove that? Or am I just afraid? Like, am I just afraid of getting hurt again? Or am I just insecure? Like these are the kind of questions that I had to ask myself. And the main thing that I did was I just had to see if I could find the evidence of whatever I was afraid of. And if I couldn't, without like really having to deep, like if it wasn't blatantly obvious, because at this point in time, like I knew the signs, I knew what true red flags were, and I knew what to look out for. So if I didn't have that exact like evidence of it, then I'm like, okay, I'm probably just freaking out a little bit, maybe self sabotaging. um, the other thing that I had to do when it came to trusting my now fiance, I just had to get to this point to realize that trusting other people really has less to do with the other person and more to do with myself. And what I mean by that is that trusting other people is ultimately a choice. Like we see things and they give us like certain attributes that make them seem trustworthy. But even if they do all of that and we don't see any red flags, we can still choose not to trust them, or we can choose to trust them. The thing that's actually most important is learning to trust yourself and to trust your own judgment, and also trust the fact that you value yourself enough that if you do see actual red flags, that you won't continue in the relationship, or you set boundaries or whatever it might be. Like, you just trust yourself to make different choices than we did before. And I just had to realize I can't control what he does. Like, I because here's the I could set up all the safeguards. Like with my narcissistic ex, I set up all the safeguards. We shared our location with each other, and we always checked in like on my way home, or this or that. Like, we did all the things. He was still cheating on me for the last 5 months of our relationship. They want to find a way, they're going to find a way. So I can't control what he does, and I just had to remind myself the same thing that I discovered with my narcissistic ex, which is if he ever decided to make those choices, that's a reflection on him and not a reflection on me. And there's nothing I can do to stop that. So I kind of had to release the need to feel like I was completely in control, if that makes sense. And that just kind of clicked with me one day. And I wish that I could be more specific on how I did that, but it really just ultimately was a decision that I made. Like, I'm choosing to not stress out about this because there's nothing I can do about it. So that's kind of how I helped myself with that. But there was a period of time in general, not even just dating, where I thought everybody was out to get me. Like, I thought everybody was a narcissist. There's a natural stage of paranoia after these relationships, so don't beat yourself up too much if you've dealt with that. It's actually very, very normal. It's a protective measure. And you're absolutely welcome for answering. Oh, this is a good question. Okay, so this one came over on Facebook, so I'm going to read it if you're not on there. How do I stop being triggered by objects or songs, places, etc. that remind me of my ex? We've been separated for 5 months, and I've been in therapy for 4. Okay, I'm going to teach y'all something that I really wish that I would have known. Like, really wish I would have known. Which, by the way, I had a whole podcast interview with the Narc and Me podcast, and it was actually about triggers. I just added that to the link in my bio too. If you click on the link in my bio and scroll down a little bit, you'll find where all my podcast interviews are. I don't have my own podcast, but I've done interviews for other people's podcasts. And there's one for the Narc and Me, and we talk about managing triggers. But I'll give you a little preview. So every trigger tells you a story, and it's usually a story about yourself. So here's what I mean by that. You can break triggers down into 3 different parts. There's A, B, and C. There's an activating event, there's your belief, and there's your consequence. So the activating event is like what you're talking about, the object, the song, the place. That's the thing that happened. Your B is your belief system, which that's like, what's your thought around this activating event? What did this activating event also tell you about you? And that's the part that takes like a lot of reflection. Is usually an activating event triggers a memory, and then that memory tells you something about you. So we'll just use one of my examples, and I use this one on the podcast. When I found a pack of condoms after I kicked him out, we didn't use condoms because we were supposed to be monogamous. I had already found out about the cheating, but this was just another trigger to remind me of the cheating. And the cheating, the story it told me about me was that I wasn't enough, or I wasn't masculine enough, or attractive enough, whatever. That's the story that it told me. And because of that belief system, it created this intensive consequence. When you can figure out what the belief is that's attached to your trigger and change that and start telling yourself a different story, it will actually reduce the consequence, and it will reduce your response to that. So instead of getting frustrated by your triggers, use it as an opportunity to find out what your trigger is telling you about yourself, because there's probably some sort of negative belief system attached to it. And again, y'all, this is the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about a lot in the coaching community. So again, we're doing the founding member offer right now. It's only $25 a month. We're going to work together for 2 months to structure everything and figure out what kind of content we want in live events. I know I want to do something every quarter with the community. like a big event. I don't know exactly what it is, but that's kind of the things that I'm asking the founding members, like, hey, what would y'all like to see once a quarter? Um, and if you join as the founding member, it's only $25 a month and you're locked in as long as you're in the community. So if you're interested in something like that, the community is completely focused on implement strategies just like this. Just send me a DM. You can ask any questions that you have. Sending me a DM does not mean you're signing up. It just means you're interested, and I can answer any questions that you got. And again, you can also go to the link in my bio too. So I hope that kind of helped with the triggers. But again, if you want more in-depth information about that, I just did a podcast interview. I think it launched last week on the Narc and Me, which I love her. That's hosted by Ashley. She's fantastic. Oh, you know what? I forgot I had a poll going. Okay, let's see. Okay, it looks like I'm going to pop this up one more time on Facebook and YouTube, but over here on TikTok, it looks like obsessive thinking is winning the game. So y'all can just comment on there what you want to talk about today. So if you're still with your narcissistic partner and you want to leave but have no support, I feel like a broken record, but if you go to the link in my bio, hold on one second, I'm sorry. The poll, I have it on my screen on Facebook, and you can just comment which one you want. It's an official poll over on Facebook and YouTube. Sorry, I can't be fancy over there. If you actually go to the link in my bio, scroll down about halfway through my Beacons link, there's an article. It's free. It's an article that you can read that actually helps you build an exit strategy. And it's a free resource that's on there. Sometimes having that requires creativity, but this article literally gives you like 12 steps to building an exit strategy. So please go and check that out, number one. And like I said, it's just a free article that's listed online. But I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. So I have that linked in there. There's several things that you can do. You can call, I'm trying to answer this without getting too detailed necessarily. But one thing that I think is always a good thing to do in last resorts, if you don't have any support, whether it's like financial or even social support, I think the first step is just finding a safe place to go, even if that's a shelter. The great thing about a lot of DV shelters is that emotional abuse is considered violence. So you can use one of those, even if you have to pack up and drive a couple hours to your nearest family member's house. Just figure out the safest place that you can go and then start getting certain things in order. So whether it's saving money, whether it's, starting to get all of your like legal documents together, checking your phone for like sharing devices and like that kind of stuff. Sometimes you may just have to kind of duck your head down in the situation that you're in and just build it little bit by little bit. But that's also why I recommend the article that's in my bio, because it helps you break that down, like, and helps you build a plan. I want to say it's like 12 steps to it or something like that. So check that out. And then just another creator that you can follow that's talked about exit strategy a lot. If you follow Roller Coaster of Love, the reason why I kind of struggle talking about it just a little bit, if I'm completely transparent with y'all, I didn't necessarily have an exit strategy. I just kicked him out of my house. But before that happened, I was kind of already putting a plan together, because in like February or so, the last 5 months of our relationship were really rough, and our lease in our home was ending in September. So I had already decided in like February, okay, if things don't improve drastically, I'm not renewing it, and he can go somewhere else and I'll figure it out from there. Like I had gotten that far in my exit strategy, but I didn't get the opportunity to build one. It was kind of a fight or flight thing, and I just kicked him out. So I don't have the lived experience on that one as much. But if you do follow Roller Coaster of Love, I know that she talks about it quite a bit. So, but please check the article out. That's why I have that on there for sure. Yeah, when you're married with kids, it is a long process, but it's doable. It just, I mean, it can be done on a whim. I know people that just literally fled, um, but it takes planning. So check the article out because it'll kind of help you organize your thoughts. Like I said, just go to the link in my bio, scroll about halfway down, and I think it says need help with an exit strategy, and just click it. Just go straight to an article on there. So hopefully that helped a little bit. I'm sorry. Sorry, I just had a bunch of comments come in, so I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss any good questions on here. Okay, good. I'm glad it helps. Sometimes I get in my head where it's like, well, I didn't live through that. I don't know if I should talk about it, and I doubt myself sometimes. It's annoying. I'm pretty good friends with Lisa Sony, and her handle's stronger than before. If you're not following her, please follow her. She always like verbally bitch slaps me sometimes. She's just like, get out of your head. I'm like, sorry. Okay, so what do you do if you find out a mutual friend is reporting back to them? Block that mutual friend. Like that's not even a question. Like if that's what's going on, then that person is not your friend. That's called a flying monkey, which could be if you're what if you're trying the question was what if you're trying to avoid your narcissist and they keep showing up, or you find out one of your mutual friends is reporting them or reporting back to them. They are not your friend. Like, and I know that's very, very blunt, but they are not. So don't just block your narcissistic person, block that friend, make everything private. It's that simple. Because anybody that's doing that is not for you, not even a little bit. And that could be why they're showing up everywhere that you're trying to avoid them, because they're being reported to. And I talked about this a little bit on live yesterday, actually, where you kind of have to, we talked about the demonizing phase a little bit yesterday, and you kind of have to be careful. Like there's usually two responses. Like people either blindly believe what the narcissistic person is saying about you. They blindly don't, not blindly, they like emphatically don't believe it because it contradicts your character. And then you have these people in the middle that maybe they don't believe it or they're not sure. And so they'll like come to you and try to get your side of the story. It could be genuine, but it also could be someone trying to get information, or they're just nosy. You know, most of my friends didn't even bat an eye when it came to what he was saying about me. There were people that didn't even know me that didn't bat an eye to what he was saying, and they also did not ask my side of the story. But there were a couple people that were like, oh, he's saying this, like, is that really what happened? And you know, I just, if I didn't 100% trust them, even if I questioned a little bit, I didn't talk about it. I didn't share details with them because I wasn't sure who was going to be sending information back to them. So if you find out that someone is sending information back, that person's just not for you. And I know that sucks, but consider it when things like this happen, consider it a way of your social circle being purged in a great way. Because I would rather know. Like, I would rather know if someone really was for me or not. Because if you support my abuser, then you indirectly don't support me. Plain and simple. There's also no such thing as Switzerland. No. You're not going to be neutral and stay friends with my abuser and stay friends with me. That's just not happening. Very hunty. Okay, so it looked like on the poll, obsessive thinking was kind of the winning topic. Okay, so let me ask y'all this question. So either type in like me in the comments or a thumbs up, something like that. Tell me if the thing that you like, do you feel like you're replaying certain aspects of the relationship over and over again? Like, is that what we're struggling with? So if you're replaying the relationship a lot in your head and trying to figure things out and piece things together, either give me a thumbs up or just say like, me, that's me. Because there's different struggles with obsessive thinking. So I want to make sure I talk about the one that's, okay, I got a couple over here on TikTok, but that's your struggle. And on Facebook. Okay. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I was like, okay, cool. Not cool, because I know what that feels like. I just mean, okay, then that's what we'll talk about. Sorry, I didn't watch my words there very well. Um, Oftentimes when we are replaying the relationship over and over in our head, what's usually happening is we are trying to reach understanding. And here's why we get stuck. So I want you to think about if if you have kids or if you've been around kids or anything like that. I want you to think about when a child is like doing their math homework or science homework or something like that, and they get to a part in their homework where they can't figure it out. What do they usually say? They say, "Teacher, I'm what? What do they usually say?" Let me see if y'all are tracking with me. I'll give you. They say, "I'm stuck." Yes, y'all got it. So they say, "Teacher, I'm stuck." It's because they can't find the answer to the problem, right? Well, that's exactly what we feel like in the obsessive thinking cycle. We feel very stuck in it. And it's really simple if you think about it. The reason we feel stuck is because we are trying to bring logical thinking to an illogical situation. We are trying to rationally explain irrational behavior. They literally do not line up because what they do is unexplainable, what they do is illogical, and what they do is often irrational. And when we are trying to use our logical thinking and our rational thought process to explain their behaviors, we get stuck because you cannot rationalize their actions, that they don't make sense. You cannot logically explain their actions because they don't make sense. So we get stuck in this place of trying to understand. And it also turns into this like big mesh of like spaghetti, like mental spaghetti is what it feels like. Because it's like, okay, you'll answer one question or figure one thing out or piece something together. But then the answer to that one question leads to six more questions. And the reality of the situation is you're not going to understand it all. And I know that that sucks because for me, I'm a why guy. Like I like to know the why behind things. Like that's why I'm in grad school learning how the brain works and like becoming an occupational therapist and all that stuff. I like to fix things and I like to know the why behind it. So I was very frustrated because I just couldn't understand why. And it just didn't make sense. Like, why? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, why me? Like, why did you even start this relationship? Like nothing made sense to me. Nothing's ever going to make sense. But you don't have to reach understanding in order to reach acceptance. And we do need to reach acceptance in order to really truly move on from this. But as long as we sit here and try to understand it, then we have to accept it. So when you're replaying it, that's usually what we're doing is we're trying to find some sort of explanation of what the hell has happened to us, really. So ways that you can kind of overcome this. And again, for those of you guys that weren't here earlier, I just want to make sure everybody knows this is the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about a lot in the coaching community. So I'm doing a founding members rate until March 31st. It's only $25 a month. You get exclusive content, exclusive lives. You get direct access to me. You also get discounts on all my stuff, like my book, my course, my coaching, like all that stuff. And that offers through March 31st. And you also get to help me structure everything and give me direct feedback because it is still a little bit in concept phase. I'm kind of building it as we go. So you get to be a part of actually building the community before I relaunch it. And this is the kind of stuff we're going to be doing and talking about is the how-tos, how to manage triggers, how to get over obsessive thinking, how to reach self-worth, how to reach radical acceptance, all that stuff. So if you're interested in that, please send me a DM because I'm only doing this until Friday, this offer particularly. And then, or you can also just check the link out in my bio. There's a link on there too. So one of the things that you can do to kind of help you redirect this is you need to, okay, I'm going to give y'all a couple of tools with this. The first thing that I would do is I would write down all the things that you commonly ruminate over or the things that you're commonly obsessively thinking about. So is it like for me, one of the things I was constantly thinking about all the time is like all the aspects of the cheating, because that's the part that was really difficult for me to let go of. So write down, you can also call it like Dr. Carrie McAvoy, she calls it your big problem. Like write down the things that you just aren't able to process, that you just feel stuck on. And then you kind of ask yourself some questions around it. So, like, one of the questions that I asked myself was, is really knowing all the details about the cheating really going to help me? Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, is me knowing all of this information going to get me closer to healing? Is it going to get me closer to peace? Or is it honestly just going to cause more damage? Because I knew enough, really. Like, I knew enough. I knew that it happened. I knew it was at least three different people. I knew it was he was on Grinder for the last 5 months of our relationship. Like I knew a lot already, but knowing all the details, knowing where it happened, well, outside of it happening in our house, but like where in the house, knowing exactly how many, knowing if it happened at work too. There was nothing that it was going to give me that I didn't already have. And what I had is I had the information that I needed to know I made the right decision by leaving. That's it. Like I cheat he like I had to I had to change my thinking process about it. Instead of trying to reach understanding, I just had to accept the fact that it happened. Like and that was kind of the shift that I had to make. So when these thoughts about cheating popped into my head or whatever, that's what I would tell myself. It's like, you know what, Trey, we're not going to go down this road. Like you're never going to find out all this information. B, maybe there's a reason that you've only found out what you needed to know. And C, you know enough. You know that it happened, and that's all that you need to know. And so I would have this like phrase that I would say to myself about that particular thing, so I can redirect my thought process. And what I would usually do is I would do something called a stop and distract technique. I didn't know that that's what this was called at the time. So this is a more sophisticated version of what I did. But what you can do is you can literally like say out loud, like, no, stop. You redirect your thought process with like a what I call a grounding phrase. Like, okay, get grounded in the current moment, get grounded in the truth, get grounded in what you can control versus what you can control, and then physically redirect yourself. So get up and go do something that gets your mind off of it. So, like for me, cleaning is a very therapeutic activity. It's something that gets me out of my head. I know that's not the case for everybody. Going for a walk is can be that way for you. You know, maybe it's just putting on your favorite song and just having a little dance party in your house. Maybe it's going for a drive. You know, whatever it might be for you. And you might have to have some trial and error on what works. But do something that physically redirects you, not just um, mentally redirects you, because it just kind of solidifies that. And like I said, you probably have to do it over and over again, especially the first couple of days. So I and someone just said, but the thoughts won't stop. They're not going to stop at first. Like I'm just going to be very blunt with you. The first It took me really 6 weeks of doing stuff like this over and over and over again, like it does. And the first several days, you may do this process 8 times that day. That's okay. You just keep doing it and don't allow yourself to get frustrated at how many times you're having to do it. Instead, be proud of the fact that you're doing it every time and you're not just giving into those thought processes, because that's what we've been doing in the past. And that's not a judgmental thing. It's just like we don't know anything else to do and we don't have anything to like redirect it. So, like in my course that I have, in the Breaking Free from Rumination course, I call it a rumination roundabout because that's really what it feels like. It feels like you're stuck in the middle, in the inside lane of a roundabout, and you can't get off of an exit. And essentially, what you're needing these exits. So it's like the correcting or the grounding phrase is an exit strategy for your ruminating thoughts. Just be proud of the fact that, you know what, yeah, that thought popped in my head 12 times today, but every time today I took my exit. I took my exit. That's what you need to focus on. And what you'll notice is that, yes, they may still be coming tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, but over time, you're going to create a new mental habit to where that becomes more automatic than going down the roundabout. But it does, like, and I'm being honest with y'all because I lived it. I don't want to sit here and say, oh yeah, do this twice and it's gone tomorrow. Like that, nope, that's not how it works. I wish. That's how it worked. Like that would have been great. But it literally like I'm not exaggerating. It took me 6 weeks, almost to the day, like exactly 6 weeks of me doing this kind of things, journaling. I was going to therapy every week, even when I couldn't afford it. Like I was putting it on a credit card. I mean, I was 6 weeks of diligent work, and I just woke up one day and I was indifferent. It literally felt like that. It literally felt like not that I still wasn't dealing with things, but my bond to him was definitely broken, and my mental clarity was present. Because before I didn't even have mental clarity. so, um, so yeah, that when you're replaying all that, try that out. So just write everything down that you feel like you're obsessively thinking over consistently, and then write down your grounding phrase, and put it like a note on your phone, so that way if you're like, well, don't look at your phone if you're driving. I shouldn't promote that, but that way if you're like in your car at a red light, um, you can pull it out because you have it, because you might forget it your first couple times. um, so do that and give that a shot. And again, guys, this is the kind of stuff that I'm going to be doing in the coaching community. And we're going to be doing lives like this together, but it'll just be in the community. I'm going to be doing things called speed coaching. I'm excited about that one. We'll be doing that once a month, where we actually get on a live, but like you can pop into the live like on your camera for like 5 minutes, and we just work together real quick for 5 minutes, and then we just kind of go on to the next. Um, we're going to be doing quarterly events, like bigger events. I'm going to be bringing in other survivors where they talk about their healing journey. There's also just community aspects with it too. You get to connect with other survivors and help break that feeling of isolation. So again, my founding member offer, it's open until March 31st. It's only $25 a month. You can stay in as long or as little as you want to. And if you have any questions about it, please just send me a DM. I can give you more information. Sending me a DM is not signing up, it's just inquiring. But I'm very, very excited about the community, because my heart really truly is in the healing and the implementing and the strategy building and the coaching side of things. Like that's what I truly love to do. I love the platforms, and I'm very grateful for like my Mind of the Narc and Narcissistic Hotline and all that. Like it's what even put me on the map. But what I love is the coaching and the healing phase. So please send me a DM if you have any questions about it. And you can also go to the link in my bio. It's the first thing in my link, and you can get you some more information that way too. Um, over here on Facebook, she said, "You were great about answering your DMs." Thank you. Sometimes I go through like phases. Sometimes I'm like really bad about it, but right now I'm intentionally being good about it. Okay, this is a good question. I don't think I've gotten this question before. So over here on TikTok, it says, "So would you consider yourself to have been codependent during the beginning of your healing phase? Like, would I have considered myself a codependent person back then?" Is that what you're asking? I want to make sure I answer this correctly. Make sure it. Yes. Okay. So yeah, 100%. So let me let me tell you what rocked my world when I realized that I was codependent. This is like crazy. Okay. Well, it's not crazy, but my therapist asked me this question, and she said, "Trey, imagine that you reach every goal that you have. Imagine that you reach the success that you want, and you accomplish all your life goals and like this and this, but you don't have a partner. Does it lose its value? Like, does your life lose its value if you don't have a partner?" And my answer was yes. And that's when I knew that I was putting hella too much weight on having a relationship. And I use this example all the time. I might even have to make a t-shirt about it, because I literally do it all the time. So I'm from the South, so excuse my metaphor. Um, but um, my job at Thanksgiving is to make the pumpkin pie. Okay. Now I'm going to ask y'all a question. If y'all been on a live before with me, you've probably heard this metaphor before, so you can help out with this answer. So what do people usually put on top of a pumpkin pie when they eat it? Like not in it, but like what do they put on top of it? And just bear with me. There's a reason I'm asking this. It'll make sense here in a second. We'll see if anybody understands my southern metaphor. Cool Whip or whipped cream? Yes. So, but do you need the Cool Whip or do you need the whipped cream to make a pumpkin pie? Is it needed? Yes or no? I know there's a delay from when I ask and y'all comment. No, it's not needed. It's just something that takes the pie to the next level. It's the same thing with relationships. You are all the ingredients that you need as a pumpkin pie. Like you are everything. You're the nutmeg, you're the cinnamon, you're the Eagle brand milk, you're the pumpkin. You don't need anybody else to complete the pie. If somebody doesn't come in and helps take the pie to the next level, aka the Cool Whip on the pie, then you don't have space for them in your life because that's what a relationship should be. It should help take your life to the next level, but it's not there to complete your life. And that's what I had to understand was that I was enough. Like I can build my own life. I don't need somebody else to bring my life value. I'm good enough. And I love the whole idea of having someone to share my life with, but I'm okay if that doesn't happen for me. And here's what's ironic is that the moment that I started to become okay being single and I had done a lot of my healing work, I met my freaking fiance. Like that's really how it worked out. Like I had just gotten to the point where I was like, yeah, I'm Gucci. I'm enjoying being single. I'm fine. I don't need anybody. I got my routine down. This not 2 weeks later I met him. Wasn't even supposed to be anything serious. But I did. I had to get to the point where it's like, yes, I want someone to share my life with, and there's nothing wrong with wanting that. But if your life loses value in your minds because you don't have someone, then you're putting too much weight into it. Like you're good enough without it. And it's okay to want it. We're human beings and we're relational creatures and it's okay to want it. But to find it's better to wait longer and find the person that helps bring your life to the next level than to settle for someone that essentially steals your own ingredients to make your pie. That's a weird way of phrasing it, but hopefully that made sense. If you're having to compromise parts of yourself to make a relationship work, it's not worth it. So, very long tangent, long winded. If y'all been on my lives before, you know I get on my rants. That's my rant to answer the question, was I codependent? Yes, absolutely I was. I don't I don't think I would have ever fully gotten over that had my therapist not asked me what she asked me. Because when she asked me that question, it really was a light bulb moment for me. Has my fiance been in this type of relationship? He's been in some pretty toxic relationships. I don't necessarily like to speak for his experience for him, but I will tell him that we need to do a live again together. We went live together several months ago, and I actually let people know that we were going live, so that way um, people could submit questions for me and for him. But he's pretty open about the fact he had some really toxic relationships. I wouldn't necessarily say it was like this, though. It was just bad. It's just one of those situations where they just kind of brought the worst out in each other. And I think that did help raise his level of understanding. Like he didn't fully understand it, but he, I guess, had enough of an understanding to not take it personally when I was struggling with things. And I did tell him at the very front, like second date, I'm like, bro, I'm going to have triggers. I don't know what they are, but I promise to tell you when they happen. I'll tell you, like, sorry, my words are struggling at the moment. I said, I know I'm going to get triggered. I don't know what they are, but when I find out, I will tell you. And just understand if I get triggered, it probably has very little to do with you. So I actually said that, like literally our second date, and just preemptively said that to him. So the question was, how do you know when you're no longer codependent, especially if you're currently single? Um, kind of like I said, when I got to the point where it was like, if a relationship happens, I'm good. But if not, I'm good too. Like I didn't have that desire where I needed a relationship, but I was okay with wanting one, but I didn't feel like I needed one. Do you really call him bro? I do. I do sometimes because it annoys him. Because for him, he's like, I'm babe or baby. That's it. And I'm like, okay, bro. But no, I don't really call him bro that much. I literally do it to annoy him. I think I even called him sweetheart not long ago. And you know how sweetheart can kind of be a little condescending. And he's like, I don't know how many times I have to tell you. It's either babe or baby. And I'm like, okay, sweetie. How many times did you question if it was you that was the narcissist? Oh, that's a good question. Um, I don't know if I can say how many times it was. I can tell you a time frame. I found out that so when I kicked him out, I I questioned that. Well, I wouldn't say that I questioned if I was the narcissist, but I questioned that I was the problem, mostly during the relationship, um, because he convinced me that I was the problem. Um, and then, I think that night that I kicked him out was so bad. It just really kind of showed me a side of him that I was always afraid was there. But because I remember saying to my friends, he ended up being everything I was afraid he was, and nothing that I thought he was. Um, that night broke a lot of the facade that I had of him. Not everything, because I still didn't know about the cheating, but I found out about quite a bit that night. Um, so I would say it was during the relationship, but something about that night just really kind of like opened my eyes to him. And then when I found out 3 weeks later about the cheating and how long it had been going on, so I'll be honest with you guys, like during the relationship, he would say this, and if I'm honest with y'all, I knew that he was full of shit like 90% of the time. Like I knew he was. So a lot of the things that I found out that he was doing behind my back, I wasn't terribly surprised by. But the one thing that I actually felt like he was genuine about when he said it, he used to say to me all the time, like that his ex-husband cheated on him a lot and that he can never do that to somebody because he knows how much it hurts. Well, when he would say that to me, that was one of the very few times that it actually felt genuine. So when I found out that he actually had been cheating, it was like all facade was broken in that moment because I'm like, wow, so literally everything this dude said was garbage. And at that point, I 100% knew this was not me. Like I still struggled with the obsessive thinking and I still struggled with replaying a lot of things. And I still had all the struggles, but it was kind of like my head had the knowledge, but my heart was 5 steps behind my head. So it's like I knew I could logically explain everything. And I didn't even know about narcissism. Like I really didn't. But I at least logically knew he's not a good person. But my heart was 5 steps behind it. And it took me a long time to get those two to connect. But once, and it took a while. I mean, it took months for my heart to catch up to my head. Hi, Dane.
Are you on a video call?
I'm live. Okay, so I have a question over here on Facebook. If y'all hear like noise in the background, it's because my fiance just come home and my dog always freaks out because she's excited to see him. So why do they say, please don't worry about me? And then in the next breath, I know you weren't really worried. It's called manipulation, my friend. Like that, I mean, that's a very manipulative thing to do. They're gonna say like, oh, don't worry about me, because they want, it's almost kind of like when someone says like, don't think of a purple elephant, and then all you do is think of a purple elephant. They want you to think about them. They want you to be, well, why is he saying that? Like, what is he doing? It's a manipulation tactic. And then they make you feel bad when you don't check in on them and all that stuff. It's just manipulation, to put it simply. Oh, I just realized I didn't take the chicken out of the freezer for dinner. Oops. How did I get over the heartbreak of that deep betrayal? Ugh, I'll be honest, like that part was that part was hard for me because the cheating, it opened up such a deep wound. I used to say things. I remember saying to my therapist, like, he broke me. And, this is a little random, but I think it's important for everybody to hear this. These people don't have the power to break you. They don't. You can be deeply wounded, but you're not broken. Because if you're even here following like my page or anybody else's page and getting the information and asking these questions of how do I do this, Trey, and how do I move on, or you do things like joining the coaching community or, buying anybody's course or doing anything like that, those aren't signs of broken people. That's just not. You could be deeply wounded. So be very careful with the language that you use to yourself, and don't say that you're broken, because you're not. Like, you're here, you're still moving forward, even if it's baby steps, even if it's inches. You're moving forward, and that's not broken people syndrome. So just be cautious of how you talk about yourself and to yourself. But anyways, that did open a very deep wound, because I've struggled since I was 12 years old, feeling like I was good enough. I was I was second in a lot of things, or I like would almost get the 4.0 or like this or that. So I always just felt like, I struggled feeling good enough, and I never really felt attractive growing up because I was a chunkier kid. Um, and so there's just these deep rooted insecurities that I dealt with pretty much since I was 12. And so that violation of the relationship into me really opened up that wound. If y'all can like not do that, that'd be great. It's all distracting. And when I ultimately had to remind myself, because look, here's the deal. I was always physically available to him. I was the one that was getting rejected, not the other way around. All he would have had to do is ask. There was nothing that I wasn't physically giving him. So the fact that he did that and took that step, you're literally so distracting. So the fact that he did that and took that step was a sign of him and his brokenness, and it had nothing to do with me. I could have been the perfect partner for him. He still would have made those choices because that's just who he was. And it also started to click with me too, that I'm pretty sure that I don't know all the details. I never reached out to the ex-husband to ask, because quite frankly, it didn't matter. But I just had this light bulb moment too, where I was like, I'm wondering if what he said about his ex was ever true. And then I started to learn about narcissism and what they do. And a lot of times when they talk about their ex, they're talking about themselves. And I'm like, so this is just who this dude is. Like, this was unavoidable. There was nothing I could have done to avoid any of this. And so that kind of helped me start to patch up the wound. But the thing that I focused on the most was working on the insecurities that I had. And I'll be honest, it's still something that that I deal with. Just because it's been there for so long, it's not going to go away overnight. It's so much better than it was. But every once in a while, it rears its ugly head, and I just got to deal with it. I just go back to my strategies. Was yours a covert narcissist? I don't know, to be honest. And ultimately, for me, like, the label part's not super important. But based on the description of covert, no, I don't think he was. Mine was kind of more, I forget what it's called. I want to say it's called, not the anxious one. I don't remember what it's called. That's how little I pay attention to labels, to be honest. For me, it's about it's about what they do. It's about their behaviors. He wasn't malignant, because malignant's the pretty violent one. He's just a liar, and was always the victim and everything. Sorry, I was giggling at this comment. But I got a narcissistic friend that I cut off, and she's hoovering. Any advice? So this is just in general, by the way. So like narcissistic people and narcissistic relationships, they all work the same. Like it doesn't matter if it's friendship, romantic, coworker, they all work the same. So the tactics, like to either get over it or to safeguards and all that stuff, it's the same. So when it comes to like if a friend, like an ex narcissistic friend is hoovering you or trying to hoover, then do all the same things that people recommend when an ex boyfriend or ex girlfriend or ex husband, whatever it might be, is trying to hoover. Highly, highly recommend no contact. I highly recommend blocking. And even if you do block and they're reaching out with different phone numbers and different emails and all that stuff, you just don't respond and you just keep blocking. So just any kind of advice that you've heard about how to deal with hoovering attempts, you can apply it even though it's a friendship, because it's all the same. It's absolutely all the same. So again, guys, I will just remind everybody, just in case you came on late, I have 3 days left of my founding member offer for Trey's Tribe, which is a coaching community. It's strictly focused on implement strategies, pretty much everything, things that we're talking about like tonight. And because if you guys have even kind of seen it, everybody's asking questions on how do we deal with this, which still just reiterates to me that this is the kind of stuff we need, which is the how-tos, and that's everything we're going to be focused on in the coaching community. If we do information-based stuff, it'll be to explain why we're dealing with it. So if you are interested in that, it's only $25 a month for founding members. I have 3 days left of this offer, then it's being closed and won't be offered again at that rate. Send me a DM. You can ask me any questions that you have, and you can also check out the link in my bio too. I don't know where your phone is, my love. I have a corgi. That's the type of dog I have. Yeah, I'm just scrolling through. How to break trauma bond and rumination. Which do you break first? Okay, so the question, do you break trauma bond or do you break rumination first? They go hand in hand. Like they really do. Probably the reason that you're struggling with rumination is because you might still be trauma bonded. I was. That's not the case for everybody necessarily, but that was the case. Oh no. Sorry. If you were on TikTok, that probably paused for a second because my phone is at 20%. So I'll repeat that. If you were, for me, I was dealing with rumination because I was still trauma bonded and because I was still like in contact with him. I fell for the whole like, oh, let's stay friends thing. You're the best friend that I have in my life. Blah, blah, blah. I fell for that hook, line, and sinker. That's a really good question. I love when y'all ask me questions that make me think. For me, the process of breaking the rumination cycle indirectly broke my trauma bond, because to break my obsessive thinking cycle, I had to reach radical acceptance. And that's something that you also have to reach when it comes to breaking your trauma bond. So I think, to answer your question, they go hand in hand. I don't necessarily know if one breaks before the other, but if I had to guess, it's probably the actual trauma bond breaks first, because the obsessive thinking cycle, you can struggle with that without being bonded to them still because of the mental habit that's formed. Someone said radical acceptance. Elaborate. Another way of saying radical acceptance is accepting without understanding. Because again, you're not going to understand everything, but you do need to accept it. And when you accept it and you just embrace that it's your story and you just own your story and you depersonalize the actions that were done to you and understand that you could have never avoided any of this and that they are who they are, that the experiences that you experienced were real and they weren't necessarily all your fault. When you can just reach this place of you no longer question your own reality, then you can move forward. And it is a struggle. I mean, it's 100% a struggle because, and let me tell you, a classic sign for you to realize if you're struggling reaching acceptance. If you find yourself saying things like, well, I know there's a good person deep down, or, well, I wasn't perfect in the relationship either, or, oh, people had it way worse than I did. If you find yourself saying phrases like that, then you might be avoiding acceptance because, okay, yes, maybe people did have it worse than you. I know people had it worse than me. I've heard some awful stories from my clients that I coach, but that doesn't mean that my trauma wasn't real. It doesn't mean that what I experienced wasn't traumatic to me. I wasn't perfect in the relationship either. Okay, well, that's valid. Like, nobody's perfect. You're never going to be perfect in any relationship. So does that mean that it was okay that they treated you the way that they did? No. So you have to, why we do that is what we're doing is we're shielding ourselves from the pain of acceptance, because it's very painful to accept the fact that you've been living with a monster or living with a stranger. I saw a meme or something a long time ago where it says, like, our parents taught us not to be scared of monsters under the bed, but nobody teaches you how to heal from the monster in the bed. And that's true. Because there's a lot of pain that's associated to accepting. It was painful for me to accept I didn't know him at all, that I was living with a stranger for 10 months, that I invited this person into my circle and exposed him to my children, and there was a lot of guilt and shame associated with that. And I was trying to avoid that because our brain is really good at redirecting ourselves from pain. And a lot of times rumination is the way that we channel ourselves away from dealing with that. Well, if I can just get stuck over here trying to figure this out that I know I'll never figure out, then I don't have to deal with the pain of this and just accepting it. Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking comments and stuff too. All right, guys. So I have like 5 more minutes. Then I need to hop off and make dinner. I'm hungry. Oh, okay. Someone just said, I feel like the trauma was so bad that I'm emotionless now. It's the weirdest thing. It's actually not weird. That is actually a very common side effect of trauma, which is either it's like numbness where you just don't feel anything, or emotional dysregulation. Um, the reason you're probably experiencing where you just don't feel anything is because in the relationship, you were kind of forced in a position to ignore your emotions for your own safety. And the problem with our brain is that it takes commands in absolutes. So what I mean by that is that whenever you tell your brain, oh, ignore these emotions, it doesn't register it as a like, oh, ignore shame, or oh, ignore guilt, or oh, ignore XYZ. It just processes it at ignore emotions. And we get to this place where we think we're just blocking the negative emotions, but our brain over time is actually blocking everything because it becomes this habit of like, I'm just not going to feel anything, because not feeling anything is actually safer. And if you think about it, you didn't have the environment or the relationship where it was safe for you to express your emotions. They probably set something off or made it worse. So it's actually not uncommon. It's actually very common. So one of the things that I would suggest for you, if you're struggling with that, check in with yourself once a day. Like, set a random timer on your phone and just ask yourself, what am I feeling in this moment? And just start getting to the point where you allow yourself to feel again. Because you've probably created, and I am speaking from experience with this, because I started trying to block off negative emotions when I was in my teenage years. And I got to this point in my adulthood where it's like I had all these great things going on in my life, but I couldn't feel happy. And it's because of that. So you have to just start allowing yourself to feel and just not judge whatever it might be. Is it normal to not have any motivation after trauma? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And you know what? I think it's okay to have some time where you just rest. Your body's been under a lot of stress. Like, I don't think that we realize how much stress our body has been under, and our body and our brain are not designed to be put under that kind of stress for this long of time. And so it's not that you're being lazy, it's that you're tired and you're worn out, and it's okay to rest, but don't get stuck there for too long. Put and meet yourself where you're at. So if you're in this place where it's like, I don't do anything, and you've not been doing anything for a while, that's cool. We're not going to judge it. But don't wake up one day and just be and try to get yourself out of it by being like, I'm going to do all this, and this all week long. Like, no, meet yourself where you're at. Like, set a smaller goal and be like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk 3 times this week. That's it. Or I'm going to go get my nails done this week. That's the only thing you plan for the week. Meet yourself where you're at, because then when you do the small things like that, it kind of boosts your confidence. You feel good about it, and then you want to do more. And it's like a snowball effect. Okay. All right, y'all. If I don't just force myself to hop off here now, I'll be on here for way too long. So again, just a reminder, there's 3 days left, including today, of my founding member rate for Trey's Tribe, which is a coaching community that is strictly focused on implementation and healing strategies and helping you take that healing past just getting over the narcissistic person. All of my founding members, they're actually giving me direct feedback on what they want to see and helping me come up with events and really help me build this from the ground up. So it's really exciting to be part of that. And I'm closing the registration of that off March 31st, and then we'll work together for probably a month or 2. And I'm thinking about relaunching it in June. At that point, it will be higher. But if you are in at a founding member, your rate never changes as long as you're part of the coaching community. So if you are interested, please send me a direct message. You can also check the link in my bio. And it's you'll click on the link and it's like a website. It's the first thing that's on there. And that can give you some information too. But just send me a DM if you have any questions about it. I'll make sure to answer them. But I'm really excited about this coaching community, because this is the kind of stuff that's where my heart is at. Like, with my clinical training and occupational therapy school and my lived experience, I have a lot of strategies that have been built at this point, and that's what we're going to be working on. So I'm very excited about it. Like I said, we have 3 more days left of this, and then I close that off. This rate will never be offered again. But thank you guys for joining me on live. Thank you for asking me the questions that y'all did. Y'all asked great questions. Like I said, I love the questions that really make me think. And again, so I saw someone comment, I want to join. Just send me a DM and I'll send you the information. So just send me a direct message. You can also just go to the link in my bio too, either one. But I hope you guys have a great night, and I will see y'all the next time that I go live, which hopefully will be tomorrow. If not, it'll be sometime this weekend, but hopefully tomorrow. But y'all have a great night. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys soon.